So happy that you all are here, and we are going to have a good study tonight. All right, let's go to God in prayer. Dear Lord in heaven, we come to you with our heads bowed before your throne, and we just thank you so much for blessing us with with your word, with the scriptures. And we pray that you bless this class, dear Lord, and help us to receive what you would have us to receive. In Jesus' name we pray and ask all these things. Amen. All right. So let's go over to Mark 5. We have a great deal of scriptures today. So I'm thinking that if each one of us, not every one of us, but if a few of us take on a set of scriptures, so maybe a person can read a set of five, another person read a set of five, or read 10, or whatever, then we can read it out together. So I'm going to ask for a few volunteers to help us to read today. If you could go over to Mark 5, and we're going to read from 1 through 20.
I'll take a stab at the first five.
Thank you.
And I will try to work my way through this word, Gadarenes, I guess. And is that correct?
Gazarenes, yes.
Okay. And they came over unto the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs. And no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains. And the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces. Neither could any man tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones.
All right, thank you so much. Could someone read the next set of scriptures for me, please?
I will.
Thank you.
But we saw Jesus afar off. He ran and worshipped him, and cried with a loud voice, and said, What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I adjure thee by God that thou torment me not. For he said unto him, Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. And he asked him, What is thy name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country.
All right, thank you so much. Somebody else read for me.
Verse 11. Now, a large herd of swine was feeding there near the mountain. So all the demons begged him, saying, Send us to the swine, that we may enter them. And at once Jesus gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine. Mm-hmm. There were about 2,000, and the swine, there were about 2,000, and the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea and drowned in the sea. So those who fed the swine fled, and they told it in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what it was that had happened. I think.
Very good.
So go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I yield.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. My apologies. Go ahead.
Okay, wait a minute. You know, your eyes get bad when you get old. Then they came to Jesus and saw the one who had been demon possessed and had the legion sitting and clothed and in the right hand, in the right mind, and they were afraid. That's it.
Okay. And then it says, yes, ma'am. Then it says, those who had seen what had happened to the demonic and to the swine reported it. Then they began to beg Jesus to leave their neighborhood. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed by demons begged him that he might be with him. But Jesus refused and said to him, go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and what mercy he has shown you. And he went away and began to proclaim in Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him. And everyone was amazed. All right. So this is a very, very interesting story in our text today. And the story begins by Jesus going to the country of the Gergesenes. And he steps out of the boat. And there was a man there with an unclean spirit. Verse 3 says that he lived among the tombs. So he lived amongst dead people. All right. He lived amongst the dead. And no one could restrain him anymore, even with a chain. So he lived amongst the dead, and he was a person that was unruly. He would take the chains and tear them apart, and the shackles break in pieces, and no one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always howling and bruising himself with stones. And when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and bowed down before him and shouted at the top of a voice, what have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me. All right. So there's a lot, I think, to unpack here just in this first set of scriptures. And the first set of scriptures is very, very interesting. That there was this person who had an unclean spirit. It caused him to live amongst the dead. And it also caused him to do harm to himself. Okay, which is a form of self-hatred. He would take stones and he would beat himself. He would bruise himself. He would injure himself. This is what he did to himself. This is terrible what he was doing to himself. When he saw Jesus, he ran to Jesus and he shouts at the top of voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For he said to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Now, I want us just to stop for a moment to just recognize where this term legion comes from. This term legion is a term that people would have recognized at that time as being a reflection of the Roman military. Okay, this is what people would have thought of. Okay, this was a military term, legion. All right, which means we have many military soldiers. We have a legion of soldiers. We have a whole bunch of soldiers, right? And this is what Rome was known for. Rome was known for the overwhelming might of Rome, the overwhelming power of Rome. Okay, they had many soldiers, and when they would come and they would descend down upon a country, and Rome had imperialized everywhere around them, near and far. They had went and occupied it, including Jerusalem and Judea. Rome would come in, and Nazareth and Capernaum, all these places Jesus is going to. Rome would come in with overwhelming force and swoop down. And the Romans would often kill all the men. They would take the young boys and emasculate them. They would take the women as wives and or concubines and give them Roman children or children that were mixed with Rome and whatever their homeland was. And then if Rome really didn't like a place, and if they really wanted to utterly destroy the place, they would take salt and grind it into the soil, making the land infertile and unable to grow crops. Okay. So how did they do all of this? How did Rome take over so much? Because Rome had legions of soldiers, legions, thousands of soldiers, thousands upon thousands of soldiers. So when this man with the unclean spirit would have said that the name is legion, first off, it would have told people that it would have told them that there are many unclean spirits inside this person, but it would have also made them think about Roman occupation. Okay, they would have thought about Roman occupation. All right, when they read this story, right? When they read this story, when you got the Gospel of Mark in the 2nd century or late 1st century, you got a hold of Gospel of Mark in the 3rd century, and you read this during the reign of the Roman Empire, and you saw this story, you would have thought about the Roman military. Okay, that's what you would have thought about. You would have thought about the Roman military. Okay, now if 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 they would have thought about the Roman military, what do you think they might have thought? What do you think it's possible that they could have thought that this story had dual purposes, right? That this story was an object lesson in some ways, right? And if it was an object lesson, then what do you think could have been one of the lessons that were being taught here? All right, well, don't worry, we'll get to it. I'm gonna break it down some more. If there's no one who has any thoughts now.
Oh, Jesus could overcome.
Yes. Go ahead.
I was saying that.
Go ahead, Dr. Broom. I think we were going to do the same thing.
Go ahead, Dr. Broom.
Parable in part would mean that Rome could overcome Rome, that Jesus could overcome not only evil forces, but very strong physical forces.
All right, very good, very good. Yes, yes. So you would hear this, you would think that Jesus could overcome very strong physical forces. Okay. And mental forces. Very good. I want to point out a quote from a New Testament scholar, Dr. O'Berry Hendricks, African American New Testament Bible scholar. He wrote the book, The Politics of Jesus, and a few others. The Politics of Jesus, one of my favorite books. He says this. He says, "How can the possessive demonic presence called legion in Mark 5, how can the possessive demonic presence called legion in Mark 5, the occupying presence that wrought the bitter pathology of oppression in Mark's community and sought to remain in possession of the country, not the man, be anything but the Roman military?" So he takes a pretty strong stance on this, right? He takes a pretty strong stance that he believed. It sounds like that what he is asking here rhetorically is that that you were supposed to think about the Roman military when you heard this story. Nothing but the Roman military, according to him. I think it can be a both and here, but nevertheless, it's a very strong point that when you see this story in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd century, you thought about the Roman military. Now, if that is the case, let us now go back just for a moment and appreciate a deeper layer of context. Okay, y'all know I like to have submarine Bible study class where we take them dive deep into the ocean floor and see all the beautiful creatures that are down on the floor and learn so much. Okay, so it says, I want you to think about this. They came, they got there, and this person said he was living amongst the tomb. I just take a moment to think about, but before I go into this, take a moment to think about all of the side effects that come to a people group when their community, when their people are under siege. Just take a moment to think about all of the side effects that come to a group of people when their community, when their neighborhood, when their country is under siege, right? When somebody comes and takes control over them, their resources, their bodies, takes control over their families, take control over their life, restricts their income, restricts how they can go in and out of that country or that community or that neighborhood. Think about the kind of effects that that tends to produce. Okay. All right. It says that he lived amongst the tombs, he lived amongst the dead. Think about communities that are under siege. Think about what they look like. Think about, you know, uh, places that look like that they've been have had bombs dropped on them, and they look like that for years, for decades. Okay, think about this. Think about this. It says no one could restrain him, even with a chain. He would harm himself and others. Think about this: the self hatred that he had to take stones and beat himself and bruise himself and harm his own self. Okay, think about how communities that may be under siege, or communities that may be occupied in some way, uh, oftentimes has higher level of interpersonal violence, or has a great deal of interpersonal violence. Folks hurt each other, that self hatred that comes on them because they can't figure out a way to get out of their oppressor's grip. So what do? They start to hurt other people who are under that same grip. It's that old saying of crabs in a bucket. People always talk about the crabs in the bucket. They say the crabs in the bucket, crabs in the bucket, crabs in the bucket. They always say that. But the question that people never ask is how did the crabs get in the bucket? I mean, that's really the question. Crabs ain't supposed to be in the bucket. Crabs are used to being free. They used to being able to roam around on the bottom of the sea floor and eat all the crazy stuff they eat down there and enjoy themselves with their little claws. And they look so happy doing it. If you ever seen a crab in its natural habitat eating, the crab looks so happy as it does this. So you think about uh, taking that crab that's so happy free, and now it's so happy free enjoying itself on the bottom of the sea, eating all the junk that it eats, and now you take that crab and put it in buckets. How is the crab going to act when it's in a bucket? So the question is, how did the crab get in the bucket? Okay, so now you have this person who has a legion inside of him, and as we said before, many people would think about this as the Roman military. Legion is inside of him, and now it's causing him to hurt himself. Let me take a moment to just point out one more thing about this before we move on, and I'll take a moment to take any comments or any thoughts about this, either vocally or on the chat. So you can get your comments and thoughts ready now. But I want to take a moment just for you to appreciate that, for now, I hate to use a sort of illustration. It's just so overused. But before any oppressive situation to work, it's not just a matter of oppressing the body. That's not what is going to keep you living. Living among the tombs and all of that. It's not just a matter of oppressing the body. Okay. If a people group are going to be oppressed, you have got to also oppress their mind. Okay, you have got to oppress their mind. If you do not get control of the mind, if you do not find a way to arrest their imagination, if you do not find a way to stifle their creativity, then they're not going to be under your thumb. You got to find a way to do it. How did they do it in Jerusalem? How did they do it? Well, they took over the religion. They took over the religion, and they took over the political sphere. The political sphere, they put in a puppet leader and the person of King Herod. He was not an organic king. He was selected by the Roman Empire, and they also put in a puppet high priest. The high priest was not so organic. He was a person that was selected by the Roman Empire, and they took over the Sadducees. They politically co-opted the Sadducees. So by doing this, they were able to take over the people's mind by way of their religion. That's why they ended up thinking it was a good idea to allow money changers to financially exploit people in the temple, right? Their minds have been captivated. And so if an oppressor cannot control the mind, they cannot control the people. And they oftentimes control the mind through instruments such as religion. They will take religion and try to shape it in a way that will empower their empire. And that's what the Roman Empire did with Jesus's homeland. Okay, so and what is the result to the person who has legion in their mind, the fear of Roman might in their mind, the fear of the Roman power in their mind, the fear of what's going to happen to me if I speak out against injustice, what's going to happen to me if I speak out against oppression, what's going to happen to me, right? The Roman military is going to crush me if I do something against them. So that's now in my mind. So what do? I don't attack the Roman military because they're going to crush me. I don't attack them. I attack myself. I attack people in my community. This person was attacking people in their community. They tried to chain them up. He break out the chains. He attacked them. He attacked himself because he could not attack what was really bothering him, and that was legion in his mind. Okay? All right, so I just wanted to take a moment to point out that this demon's name being legion is highly significant. All right, it was highly significant, and the early readers would have saw all the things that I've said to you. Like they would have recognized this, and I think that when we study it today, we need to make sure that we elevate these things because it may speak to us as well in certain contexts and certain challenges that we have today. All right, so are there any comments or questions before we move on to the next set of scriptures?
Just a comment, Pastor.
Yes.
And years ago, I read Franz Fanon's The Wretched of the Earth.
Yes, very good. Yes.
And there was a quote. I have to paraphrase it because I no longer remember it word for word. But he would say, in the colonial context, the natives turn against themselves.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Rome. I appreciate that. I was going to quote Fanon earlier, but I decided not to. But I'm so happy that you did. I mean, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Okay, that's right. Will you say that again for us?
Exact quote, but it's in the colonial context, the natives turn against themselves.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much. Wonderful comment, wonderful quote. I appreciate that. That's a great book to read. If anybody's looking for reading material, The Wretched of the Earth by Franz Fanon is an excellent book to read, especially if you're interested in the topic that we just got finished discussing. All right. Any others? No other comments? All right. So, verse 9, Jesus asked him, "What's your name?" He replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many." He begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now there on the hillside, a great herd of swine was feeding, and the unclean spirits begged him, "Send us into the swine, let us enter them." So he gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the swine, and the herd, numbering about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea, where they drowned in the sea. Okay. It says that the swines ran off and told it in the city. The swine herds, rather, ran off and told it in the city and in the country. Then people came to see what had happened. All right. So I want us just to think about real quickly what this says about the quality of legion, that they would beg to go into the swine. Can we stop to think about that for a moment? Um, what does that say about legion? So to a Hebrew reader of this, or a person reading this in the first, second century, what would they have thought about legion that it asked to go into the swine? What would this have said about legion that it asked to go into the swine?
Maybe maybe
Jewish.
maybe that his soul
They weren't.
or the spirits were tired of tormenting him.
Okay, maybe so. Maybe so. I think I heard
That they weren't Jewish. Yeah, that they weren't Jewish.
yeah, that they weren't Jewish. But it's that that's getting us on the right track. Okay, I read a book one. Go ahead.
They were filthy. They were dirty.
Yes, they were.
Unclean.
Yes, they were filthy. They were dirty. They were unclean. They were disgusting. Okay, all right. That they were filthy. That they were unclean. Okay, all right. That wow, you want to go resist? See, I think that we struggle to understand because a lot of Americans like the ham hocks and pork rinds and bacon and pork chops and you know uh, back home they say we love the pig from the rooter to the tutor. That's what they say. And when I was a kid, I used to go to something called a pig picking, and person would they would lasso a pig, they would chase the pig around, chase the hog, and they lasso it, and they'll take that pig and slow cook that pig on the grill, and everybody have a good time all day while that pig cooks. And they ate that whole thing. They would eat that pig and tear it up. So folks, in a culture like this where bacon celebrated, I mean, you turn on TV, you see 3-4 bacon commercials. We really don't understand pigs, how people think about pigs in other parts of the world. Okay, all right. But I read an article um, about how, I read an article about how even today in the Middle East, pig blood is used as a form of psychological warfare. All right. I don't know if they're still doing it. I forgot which army it was. I don't know if it was our army or some other army, but there was a talk, the article talked about how they would soak the bullets in pig blood. Okay. Which was a psychological warfare tactic for those people who they were fighting, who did not want to be shot with a bullet soaked in pig blood. Now, me, I don't want to be shot with no bullets at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't want to be shot at all. To me, there's no difference. A bullet is soaked in pig blood or soaked in water or whatever. I just don't want to be shot at all. But in that culture, if that was terrifying. That you're going to shoot me with a bullet that's soaked in pig blood. That was a terrifying thought. Okay. Now that's just a little bit of pig blood going in your body with a bullet, let alone legion wanting to go inside of pigs, possess pigs. Now what's interesting is that these pigs, they refuse to be, these pigs refuse the legion inside of itself. And it says that they all went and jumped off of the cliff. Okay. And that is something that is just very amazing to even try to imagine that these pigs did this. Now, when the Black Panther movie came out, um, there was a quote that everybody was posting on social media from Killmonger at the end of the film. Does anybody remember the quote from Killmonger? The Killmonger's character. Remember the quote that he said at the end of the film? It was something like this. He said something to the effect of, he said, after he was stabbed, he was dying, looking at the sunset. Spoiler alert, brothers and sisters, for those who haven't seen Black Panther. He's looking at the sunset, he's dying, and Killmonger says, "Bury me at sea with my ancestors who had the courage to jump off the boats to their death instead of going to slavery." You remember that? You remember that quote? Did I get it right? Or something like that. You remember that quote?
Yeah.
All right. So, I think about that and this here, where these pigs were saying, I don't want to be a tool of legion. So we're going to all jump into the sea, and they refused that. Now, my problem with that quote was that for people, my problem when that quote was on the internet and was floating around is that I think it was a quote that any of us who are the descendants of the formerly enslaved, we should be thankful that they didn't jump into the sea, because if they had jumped into the sea, there would be no you and me. Okay, we would not be here, right? Their endurance, they're willing to go into the gates of hell. Their endurance was for our sake, so that we could exist, so that we could be here, so that we could breathe the air that we are breathing today. So I was like, I don't know why everybody's sharing this, because if you are the progeny of the formerly enslaved, if you're the descendants when they jumped off the boat, there would have been no you today. You would not have existed. You would have never, breathed in breathe in your lungs, the fresh air, fresh oxygen. You would never drunk into your kidneys the fresh water, the fresh H2O. You would have never breathed the O2. You would have never drunk the H2O. Okay, I mean, you would have never been able to have all the experiences that you had if they jumped to the boat, if they jumped into the sea and killed themselves, right? But nevertheless, when I think about this image of these swine doing this, it puts that sort of image, puts an image to my mind. But does anybody does anybody like does anybody find the response that the villagers give to be odd? Does anybody find this response odd? Because it says that after they, so let me read verse 14. It says the swaneherders ran off and told it in the city and in the country. Then people came to see what was it that had happened, and they came to Jesus and saw the demonic sitting there, which they shouldn't even call him that anymore, clothed and in his right mind, and the very man who had the legion, he was clothed in his right mind. And it says their response was that they were afraid. And then verse 17 says they began to beg Jesus to leave their neighborhood. Anybody find that response odd? Why are they not pleased when they witness the new condition of the man? Do they prefer the man's constant disturbances and the legion's disruptions? What do you think? Isn't that odd? Why?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I feel like they were afraid. They didn't have the faith to believe in Jesus taking care of the whole situation, eradicating the danger.
Yes.
And they were afraid that the danger would come back to them and they were still going to be harmed. So it was a matter of fear.
I see. Very good. Very good. They were afraid. They were afraid. Amen. Anybody else?
Pastor, I was going to say something very similar in that many times people are afraid of what they don't know or what they cannot predict. And they were already familiar with their state in which they were living. And they chose that over risking something that they were unfamiliar with.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. Excellent comments. I think that's something we can take from all the comments that have been made, and something that you all should remember, you should take with you today, is that not everyone will be happy to see your deliverance. And I think we got to remember this. Not everyone will be happy to see your deliverance, because I think for some reason we think that God delivering us, everybody's going to celebrate it and going to be happy and going to sing show tunes with us and dance in the street in the rain with yellow polka dot rainbows and with big smiles on their face. But no, some people are not going to be happy to see you delivered. They won't. They will not be happy. They will not be happy. They will be upset to see you delivered. They will be fearful to see you delivered, because now that you're delivered, you have your full agency back. And now they don't know what you're going to do with it. The people that abuse you, when they may have punched you a little bit when they were trying to chain you up. They may have spit on you once or twice and they were trying to change you up when you were struggling, like this man with the unclean spirit. They did little things to you. Now you got your full agency back and they don't know what you're going to do to them. All right? They're afraid. You don't want to do nothing to them, but they're afraid. They don't know what you're going to do to them, because now you've been delivered. They don't know. Okay? They don't know. Please understand, brothers and sisters, that you see these people that listen. I'm not. Hey, I'm not telling y'all to go out here and buy no lotto tickets. I'm just making an illustration. Okay, this is just an illustration. Okay, so don't go out there saying Pastor Rogers told us about all the lotto tickets. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But if you happen to win, don't forget Second Baptist. Okay, so all right. But listen, but you see people who win the lottery, and you see them on the TV smiling or wearing masks. You know why they wear the mask? Because not everybody's going to be happy that they have won. Some people are going to be mad. They're going to do things to them. So some people wear the mask and hide. People who don't wear the mask, have no doubt about it. There are people when they win the lottery, their family members are at home. Their relatives are crying. Their relatives crying, cousins crying, people in their life close to them who love seeing them doing bad, who do not want to see them doing better than them. And so they're upset. They're mad. I'm telling you, it don't matter if it's economic, health. It doesn't matter if it's psychological. It does not matter if it's educational. It doesn't matter what kind of grip or stronghold you have in your life. There are people that when you are delivered from that stronghold, they are not going to be happy. Okay? And that's why I'm praying for a terrible deliverance. What do y'all think about those two words together? Terrible deliverance. Right? It says they were terrified of his deliverance. He had a terrible deliverance. Now I looked up the word terrible, adjective. There's 4 different definitions. One is distressing and severe. That's not the one. That don't fit. The second one is extremely bad, horrible. That don't fit. We don't want that. The third one, though, is exciting terror, awe, or great fear. And that one kind of fits, because we want deliverance that's going to put people in the awe of God. They're going to be awe-inspired. They're going to be awe-filled by what God has done to deliver you. Terrible deliverance, the one that delivers all. The fourth definition is formidably great. All right? Formidably great deliverance. Okay, that's the kind of deliverance that this man received. Okay? Now, I want to extract a few more things from this before we move on. So just hang in there with me. But I want y'all to remember that. Don't forget that if you're taking notes, write that down. Not everyone will be happy with my deliverance. Okay, I'll take your question. Just hold your question. Let me make this next point, and then I'll take your question and others. I want you all to write that down. Not everyone will be happy with my deliverance. Stop looking for it. Stop looking for it. Some folks will not walk into the door of freedom if they got to go alone. Okay? But that door of deliverance is sometimes just for you. Okay? Don't wait for others to approve it. Don't wait for somebody to stamp upon it. You say you want to write a book. Don't wait for everybody to tell you that they want you to do it. You say you want that extra degree. Don't wait for everybody to praise you and tell you to do it. You say you want to start a business. Don't wait for everybody to approve it and tell you to do it. Because I'm telling you right now, there are some people that want you to stay exactly where you are. They don't want you delivered from where you are, and they are not going to encourage the ways God is trying to deliver you. That's why you got to walk with God. and you cannot rely on the affirmations or the opinions of others. You've got to walk with God, because not everybody's going to be happy with your deliverance. Now, let me point out one more thing about this, and we'll move on to take questions. Who was it that ran off and told folks? Who was it that saw it? It was the swine herders. It was the swine herders. So one reason why they would be upset is because they saw all their swine, all their money, all their pigs jump off the cliff. Okay? This is how they made their money. Okay? Now, why does oppression exist in the first place? Oppression exists so that people can get wealthy and rich. Period. That's why the oppression exists on a social level. Oppression exists so folks can extract resources, albeit human resources, physical resources, natural resources. So these things can be extracted. So you oppress the people so you can take their land, take their oil, take their bananas, take their avocados, take their people, enslave, whatever. You oppress them so you can extract something that can bring you wealth. All right. So why is it hard for oppression to end? Because it's hard to end oppression because somebody has to stop getting rich. And oftentimes the person who was rich has real power, not figurative power, not the power of influence, but real actual power, where they have militaries, where they have gunmen, where they have money to sue and all sorts of stuff. They can do all these sorts of things. They have that power. They have that might. And so they use that might to protect their resources, to protect their assets. And so why does oppression continue? Why are people still being enslaved in West Africa to mine lithium? Why is this still happening in certain places in West Africa? Because there are companies that are getting rich off of the use of lithium. So the question is, how do you get rid of it? Because there is a profit motive, right? Same problem exists today that was there. The swine herders were terrified because they saw all their money jumping into the sea. So they had to make a choice. Either we accept Jesus, this person is special, this person might be the anointed one, this person might be the Messiah. Wow, we accept him. Wow, look at what he did to this person who had all these problems, and these problems affected us. Let's us embrace this person who can heal, who can bring us closer to God, who can help us to grow and mature spiritually. Let us accept him, or let's run him off because he's messing the money up. Okay, so they could have choose between accepting Jesus, the real Jesus, or asking Jesus to leave so they can get their money, so they can keep their money flowing the way they want it. And we know what they chose. All right, they chose to ask Jesus to leave. Okay, and so what happens today? What happens today is, and I take questions after this. Today, we don't, well, in a Western civilization, what people have tried to do is they've tried to create a Jesus that's not like this. They tried to find a way to make Jesus blend with economic injustice. They tried to find a way to make Jesus blend with the message of the swine herders. And the two to this day still don't gel. They still don't come together. So the second point I wanted to make from these scriptures, for the first point, what I wanted to talk to you all about was the fact that not everybody is going to be happy to see your deliverance. The second point, however, I want you to take with you is the point about how these swine herders chose prophets over people. They chose prophets over righteousness. They chose prophets over the Son of God himself. And sadly, that still happens today, where those swine herders are on the wrong side of things. All right, so I'm gonna take a break here. I have one more point I want to make to you all, and then I'm gonna close. So yes, Sister Hall, what was your question? And if there's any other questions, just get your question ready, and you can ask your question after Sister Hall's question. Yes, Sister Hall, okay. You had a question.
My concern is not the part of the man being possessed, but I don't know if mental health issues fall in place there, but I guess my question is, do we still frown upon mental health? Because it's a big moneymaker. You know, they want to throw you on pills. You know, they want to do all this stuff that's economically not good. I mean, good for them, but yet the person is so doped up they can't even function. You know what I mean? So, how does that? Is that kind of similar? I mean, I'm not saying that the person is possessed, you know, when they have mental illness. No, I'm not saying that.
Yes. Well,
but in a sense, I can kind of relate a little bit, being myself deficient in that area.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Well, thank you so much for being so vulnerable with us. And yes, I do not. I do not believe that this is talking about people who struggle with, various mental health issues that we've been able to put names to in the DSM-4. I don't think that this text is really speaking to that. I think this text is speaking to a person who had a demonic possession. Now, unfortunately, these days, if you watch, the History Channel or whatever, what they try to do is, they'll try to look at all these stories and try to extract from it any sort of spiritual component. So they might say on TV, this person really had this or really had that, right? They really had, the people back then just didn't know how to refer to the mental health issue that they had going on, right? But I think that is not the case here, and let me tell you one reason why. It's that not only does it say he had a demonic possession, but he said his name was Legion. Okay. He said his name was Legion. He had a name, and that name was to speak to the hearers a message about the Roman military. Okay. So this is dealing with demonic possession. Okay. This is dealing with demonic possession. All right. Now, regarding mental health, real quickly, let me say this and then I'll try to finish my lesson. Everybody has mental health issues. Okay. Like there is no person who does not have mental health. For a person to say that I don't have mental health issues, it's like a person say that I don't have physical health issues. You do. You get catch colds, you get the flu, you break bones, you get arthritis, you have physical health issues. Everybody has people deal with mental health issues of different intensities. People may have seasonal depression. People may, have anxiety problems, whatever. But everybody has something that they have to deal with their mental health, and it's something that everyone should pay attention to. Okay, everybody. Just and people have varied degrees of physical health problems. Some people are on dialysis, and they have to go there every other day. Some people are on chemotherapy. They have to go on a regular basis. That's a more extreme physical health issue. But then there are those who have a bad knee, who have I mentioned earlier arthritis, or people who may have sinus issues, allergy issues, right? They're all still physical health issues, despite the intensity. And mental health is just the same way. Everybody has mental health things that they have got to work through. No one is free from mental health issues, and just like nobody is free from physical health issues. It's all a part of us living in a fallen world and having to reckon with a world that is fallen. Okay. I hope that helps you, Sister Hall.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So let's go and finish up this Mark 5:19-20. It says, but Jesus refused and said to him, go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and what mercy he has shown you. And he went away and began to proclaim in Decapolis all how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone was amazed. Wow. Now, a question I have for us is, why in the world did Jesus refuse this man's request. I mean, I can't blame him. Like, the people were terrified by his deliverance. They weren't happy for him. They didn't throw a party for him. I don't understand. Like, well, I mean, I do. I'm speaking kind of tongue in cheek. I mean, I do understand, but I mean, it's hard to understand why Jesus did not just take the man with him.
I think because he wanted the man to give testimony to God's glory in his life, and he would reach more people if he went out into the world and talked about what God had done for him firsthand.
All right, very good. So he wanted the man to stay and give testimony, even though he was going to have to stay in a place that he felt a little bit uncomfortable being there. Okay, very good. I want to read something for you from one of my former professors, Dr. Gay Byron. She wrote this in the True to Our Native Land commentary. Beautiful scholar. I went to Ethiopia. She was a part of the cohort where she was leading the cohort. Actually, I was a part. She was leading, but went to Ethiopia with her. There was Dr. Byron, who's a Old Testament, a Hebrew Bible professor, rather. And no. Dr. Byron's a New Testament Bible professor, and Dr. Bellis was a Hebrew Bible professor, and then Dr. Pollard, who's he studied religion and society. And so these three scholars, I was afforded the opportunity to go to Ethiopia with them. This is her quote about this section of scriptures. She says, "Before Jesus leaves this territory, at the request of his citizens, the spiritually and emotionally stable man requests one thing: to be with Jesus. One cannot blame him for wanting to stay among folk who wish to send him away. Um, One cannot blame him for wanting to stay among folk who cannot see when oppression is thrown off for their own good. But Jesus denies their requests. Although the text provides no rationale, Jesus may have wanted to seize the opportunity to begin the cross-cultural mission. According to Mark, such diversity does not begin with Paul. It begins right here with Jesus. So Jesus sends him back among his people to tell how much the Lord has done for you. This formerly possessed man announces throughout Decapolis the news of victory over the forces of evil, representing not only Satan power, but the power of Rome. And so Jesus sends him back with the message, as Dr. Alexander said. And I had a map I wanted to show you here. So unfortunately, to the people in the live stream, I was not able to pull this map up. I was not able to hold on one sec. Oh man, this is not. Oh, here it is. Here's the map. Okay. All right, there we are. Okay, so everything else came up but the map. All right, so here's the map, and this is where they were right here. And let me show you a bit more here. So this is where they were. Okay, so they were here. All right, with the Gerasenes. Now you can see here how far they are from Jerusalem. All right, now, if you're driving in a car, it's not that far, but if you're walking on foot, that's pretty far. Okay, I don't know the exact mileage, but I imagine it's probably be like walking to maybe Grand Rapids or to Lansing or something from Detroit, and that's going to be a long haul. Okay, on foot. All right, so you see how far they are. Now we know several things about this audience here. We know that they cannot. Jesus wasn't dealing with Jewish people, was he? How do we know he wasn't dealing with Jewish people?
They liked pig.
That's right. They were herding pigs and they liked pigs. Okay, so what Dr. Byron is saying here is that a lot of people think that the multicultural aspect of mission started with Paul. Paul was the apostle that was assigned to bring the gospel to the Gentiles, but no, it didn't start with Paul. It started with Jesus, because we see Jesus here not only preaching the gospel to the Gerasenes, but we also see him leaving the formerly possessed man there to be a witness, to essentially be a missionary, to be an evangelist, to go around and teach the good news of Jesus Christ. Okay, so So we find that that is the reason. Well, I agree that that is the likely the reason why Jesus left him there, so that he could spread the good news. Okay, and I think that a message for us to learn. I'll say this as I close, and I believe Deacon Means is on the call tonight. So Deacon Means, I'm going to ask you to take prayer requests tonight, if you don't mind. So if you don't mind, if you could get ready for that, as I say his closing remark. That I think that sometimes um, I think sometimes we gotta ask ourselves, why am I here where I am, right? I had a preacher call me the other day, and the preacher was talking to me, and and this was really bothered by stuff that was going on in this context, and stuff that was going on in this situation. And I told him, I said, brother, I said, God has you there for a reason right now. Right now. Now, God may call you to another place one day, but for right now, God has you there for a reason. Now, we would think that the textbook answer, if you had a multiple choice and it says, when we read the story, we know how it ends, but let's say we didn't. And let's say the multiple choice said, what should the formerly possessed man do? A, follow Jesus. B, stay and tell the good news. C, jump off the cliff with the pigs. There's always some silly answer in multiple choice. Um, you would struggle with choosing A and B. A lot of folks would choose B. I'm gonna follow my Lord. I'm going with Jesus. I'm gonna follow Jesus to where he going. But Jesus says, no, don't follow me. Remember, but Jesus has been going around telling people, follow me, follow me. Jesus has been telling everybody, follow me. But he tells him, no, you stay here, right? Because those people needed his witness. They needed his testimony. I talked to a person Sunday. I talked to a person Sunday, and they were telling me about how they were having thoughts, um, uh, very self-harming thoughts. And I told this person to do yourself no. And the reason why they had those thoughts was because of things in their past that they were ashamed about, but they had overcome. And I told them that God delivered you not to be imprisoned by shame and guilt. That's what the devil wants. God and God delivered you not to be imprisoned by shame and guilt. That's what the devil wants. God delivered you so that you could witness about the power of God. And if you harm yourself, then your witness goes with it, right? That's why you're delivered, all right? That's why Jesus left him, so he could be a witness of the greatness of Jesus and what Jesus had done in his life. So I'm saying, before we complain about where we are, before we complain about our station, before we complain about our neighborhood, about our street, before we complain about our church home, before we complain about our family, before we complain about our workplace, before we complain, ask yourself, why does God have me here? What is it about me that God has stationed me here? Okay. Because Jesus left him there so he could witness. And God has you where you are in your various stations of life so that you can witness, so that you can do the work that the Lord has you to do in that sphere. Okay. All right. So I'll take any closing comments or questions before I hand it over to Deacon Means. All right. Well, I just want to thank you all so much for your participation tonight. Wonderful participation. A wonderful class. Thank you all. I always appreciate it. I do pray that you come back next week. We continue to have a great class, great session. All right. Um, Deacon Means, are you there?
Yes, brother.
All right, brother. Can you?
Are you there?